I'm a former engineer in tech sales, and I want to talk about how transitioning to tech sales has fundamentally changed my outlook on life. There's so many things I could say here, but I definitely want to condense it down into a top few. The first one being that creating a product is completely different than what it takes to sell one. And the reason that I say this is twofold, both as an engineer in the past and also both as someone who has wanted to start my own business for a long time. I used to have this false idea that if you just create something, that people will see the value and it will sell itself and things of this nature. And it's not to say that you have to be this overly aggressive salesperson or you have to be the best salesperson in the world, but even look at what I'm doing now with YouTube. It's not even that I'm sitting here and calling individuals one-on-one and selling, but bringing awareness to our recruiting and education brand as a whole requires a totally different skill than making a great website that has all of our value propositions on it. I mean, that's great, but how does anyone even find out about our website? How does anyone even find out about our weekly newsletter? We make videos like this, we give away great information from the front lines of tech sales and show things like our newsletter in the description if anyone's interested to sign up and get weekly updates, etc. And so again, the reason that I say this is not that everyone has to go into sales. I wouldn't necessarily say that if you're like a highly skilled engineer or you're highly skilled in a different profession that you have to be in a sales role before you learn how to sell, but don't be naive and think that just creating something is good enough. Just creating a website. Like, I would genuinely challenge you, if any of you have ever thought about starting a business, go ahead and make a website. And I want you for the next month to watch how much you obsess over how perfectly designed everything should be, and you refresh the page and you see, oh, wait a minute, no one even knows about my website. I don't even know what SEO is. I don't even know how to get random strangers to even come to my website. And on the off chance that one does, I don't even know how to make my website compelling enough for them to even want to buy. And the same goes with sales. Look, you can make an incredible tool, and that's fine. But I've been at startup companies with highly, highly complex technology, and the temptation is to say, look at all of these amazing things that we do. And in reality, they might be fine if you just showed them the 2 or 3 major things that solve their problem. So again, I think the reason that I'm saying this is because I experienced this firsthand, and there's 100% value in very great engineering. There's 100% value in other careers outside of sales. So I'm not here to say sales is the lifeblood of business. Sales is all of that. But you can't be naive if you're an engineer maybe dissatisfied with your job and you're like, I'm gonna quit my job and make a web app and everyone's gonna buy it. No one's gonna care. If you don't have the marketing and sales in place to actually distribute that business to business, business to consumer, it doesn't really matter. The second one I'd say, kind of on this note of the confident salesperson that we always dream about that's closing all this business, making all this money. Yes, they are confident, but confidence is derived from competence. And I see this a lot with people trying to break into sales. They almost get this like fake persona they feel they have to adopt to fit into sales culture. They have to be the most macho person in the room. They have to be the loudest. They have to be the most confident. And that couldn't be further from the truth. There are tons of people that I've worked with that are very, very successful that I wouldn't necessarily say are total introverts, but they don't necessarily prefer to be the person that's the life of the party. They don't have to be the person that everyone knows when they walk into the room. They can still facilitate tons of value, and they are very effective by the way that they know everything about their product, everything about their industry, everything about their prospect. So when they're talking to these different prospects for the first time, they can come in with the competence that they've derived throughout their career and quickly show them how they're going to solve their problem and make sure it's a fit, etc., etc. And I don't want to get too broad here, but that definitely translates to life. I will say, like, yes, I've been an engineer. I used to work at like a very big tech company in the city that I'm in. And especially when I first started right out of college, I used to think that was so great. And the funny thing is like, you think that all of these things matter, and then you go downtown and you meet people who are working at other tech companies and haven't really heard or don't really know what your tech company does. They don't really care. And that's my point, is people are latching on to these ideas that they have to be confident, or they're trying to find things that they can latch onto and say, see, look at how great I am. And that's besides the point. If you're competent in every situation you're in, if you've had enough life experience and pushed yourself from a studying standpoint, again, on your prospects, sales process, etc., that is going to show. And a second order effect of your competence is your confidence. A really big one, especially coming from the engineer world, is time management. And I am much more vigilant with my time now that I'm in sales. And it's not to say that I won't spend time and I won't work an 80-hour week, but I think in engineering, you always kind of have those clear deadlines in place, the things that you know you need to do. And sometimes maybe you're a little bit lazy, you'll spend more time drinking coffee, especially when things were in the office, you'd spend more time at the ping pong table, talking to your colleagues, etc., etc. in sales, especially when engaging with a prospect, and this is somewhat counterintuitive to people who are new to sales, is the second that you uncover that the prospect that you're talking with is either not a fit for what you're doing, they don't have budget, they're not actually serious, cut off the engagement. Stop the engagement. There is no point in continuing further. And by extension, if you're in a dumb meeting, or if you're in some meeting that you've been to 4 times now, you've never even been asked to speak, you've never been asked to contribute, I just don't go to those meetings. And I tell them, like, please let me know if I'm needed here, but I do not feel I need to be a part of this meeting. Please let me know if you feel otherwise. And again, it's not trying to say that I'm trying to avoid work or trying to avoid getting better at my job, but I need to focus as much as possible trying to find new business on all the activities that are going to bring me that. Do I need to make more outbound calls? Do I need to study up on a huge prospect because their CTO finally agreed to meet with us, etc., etc. And this one is a really big one. Don't be afraid of making the sale. And by extension, in your own life, I don't want to go too meta. I don't want this to turn into a TED Talk, but don't be afraid of your ultimate goal. Especially the further I've gotten into my career. When I first started, I was all enthusiastic and I almost wanted to be so good and kind of beat around the bush that I'm a salesperson, especially with my technical background. I kind of wanted to appeal to the developers and appeal to all the technical people and say, look, I am competent in what I'm doing with all these technical features, but the reality is you are there to make a sale. There's certainly a balance and there's certainly an advantage if you can go technical and talk very competently to technical personas, but a lot of people will get caught up in that or not have the ability to do that at all, and they'll beat around the bush and kind of be bashful about trying to make a sale. I am not bashful at all. It doesn't mean I'm overconfident. It doesn't mean I'm telling them, hey, you need to buy right now because of X, Y, and Z. It means that I'm coming to the table. I know my product well. I know we can solve the problem that they're talking about. And if they are getting worried about me asking questions about budget, asking questions about who's ultimately signing the contract, I am coming from the place of, listen, everything you've told me, we're going to solve this problem. I'm going to save everyone time if I know how much budget you have, if I know who signs the contract at the end of the day, and if I have all the right people at the table in our next meeting. These are the types of things, again, you do not need to shy away from or be so scared to ask for that meeting, for getting in front of the CTO when it makes sense, etc., etc. And lastly, kind of hitting on all those different notes, is so much of communication is what is not said as opposed to what is said. Part of where this is coming from is I saw a great framework or kind of idea about sales recently where a very experienced rep was talking about how when you're guiding someone through the sales process, you want to start and hit on the intellect and logic, but over time, you want to get to the emotion. And this is where I think a lot of people get tripped up on a few different fronts. One, obviously, if you're a little bit shaky, if you're nervous because you're finally talking to Apple or whoever and you're in front of this huge customer for the first time, there's a lot that they're going to feed off of and feel that you're showing up to the table and you're nervous, maybe because you don't know your product that well and it's going to be a waste of everyone's time, or maybe it shows that you have inexperience, you've never sold to a company like Apple before, and they're going to start to get concerned because it means your product is immature, your company is not going to be able to actually support one of the top companies in the world. But also, the flip side of this is that so much of what prospects say is not actually the underlying reason, and you as a salesperson need to get there. So for instance, an example I've used in the past in other videos is when someone is sitting there and saying, hey, we're pretty happy with our solution. Okay, why are we talking? Does that mean everything's perfect right now? And they might be like, mostly yes, but there's a few big gaps here, X, Y, and Z. Oh, gotcha. What does that mean in terms of, I guess, where's the impact there? Is that frustrating to your developers? Is that actually impacting your end users? Tell me a little bit more about that. And again, I'm riffing off the top of the head, but so many reps take things at face value. And even in my own personal life, think about how many conversations you've had with a friend, with a significant other. Even the classic example of you ask like your girlfriend, like, how you doing? And she's like, I'm fine. Obviously, there's more to it. But when we're in a sales context, we don't apply that same curiosity. We sit there and we try and tell ourselves, okay, they told us what I want to hear, and we don't dig further. So all that to say, if you've been thinking about tech sales, I highly recommend it. It's been great. It has pushed me in a lot of different ways, both obviously in my 9-to-5 job, but I think outside of work as well. It's been a great skill to develop. Not that I'm always selling, not that I'm always selling myself, but again, it's the competence that I derive from having been an engineer, from switching over to sales, to having success and experience in different domains. Over time, that only compounds. And again, it's not that I'm this high bravado macho salesperson, but I am displaying my competence and ability to handle many situations that come my way. So again, not to say sales is for everyone, but I do think there's a lot to learn, especially if you come in with the mindset that you're eager to learn, you're willing to work, especially very, very hard up front and continue to improve your skill set. The sky's the limit, and I think it's been a very great decision for me. But I hope that helps, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.